If you followed my channel for a while, you know that I like to make knobs. I have an entire collection of these things. The reason that I started making knobs was because the store ones were just too expensive. These cost about $3 or $4. So making my own knobs is really the way to combat that. One thing that I've never been able to get past are these little thumb knobs. These knurled thumb nuts are just a little bit larger than the hex nuts, which makes them so useful when you want to turn something and tighten it down. While my answer for the expensive knobs was to make my own, I've never been able to get past the fact that these things are expensive and they will cost a lot. I think for each one of these, I'm spending about $1. So in the last few years, I bought maybe 50 of them. That can be the most expensive part of my projects. So today we're gonna find a way to make some really inexpensive ones, and these are actually gonna be better than the knurled thumb nuts that you can buy in the store. There are a couple ways to do this. And the first way is just to use a press. We're gonna take a 1/2 nut and a 1/4 nut, and we're gonna press them together. I think you'll be surprised by how well this works. The vise that you use needs to be a little bit more heavy duty. I did a review for this Goners one a few months ago, and I don't recommend using something like this. It's not very heavy duty. It works for a lot of things, but putting a ton of pressure on a nut, I don't see it happening. All I need to do is add both nuts and tighten it down. Like I said, this does work, but it takes an enormous amount of pressure to push it in. Another way to get these little buggers in is by using an anvil of some kind, and this one cost me about 20 bucks. You'll want to put it on top of some kind of piece of scrap, but it's just the same as before. Line it up. And that might have been a little bit easier, actually. If you saw my bite size, you might be thinking why I made a full-size video with this. And the reason that I did was I wanted to show the different sizes that you could use. I found that every time you take a nut and you add 1/4 inch to it, that you can use that size and press it in. So if I have a 1/4 inch here, this will work in a 1/2 inch. If I have a 5/16, that'll work in a 9/16. If I have a 3/8, that'll work in the 5/8. If I have a 7/16, that goes to the 3/4 inch. And then the 7/8 will do a 1/2 inch. The same is true on the opposite side, but I think you're gonna have to play with some numbers a little bit because a lot of these nuts are not exactly the same size. And again, you might have problems with the other sizes, but I thought we'd take the extreme case here, which is the 1/2 inch, and see how well it goes into a 7/8. In this situation, you'll probably have the most stress as far as pressure to push this in. I definitely would not try this with my vise. I don't think that I have the power to do it with that. I think I'd probably crack it. So let's go ahead and take it back over, see if we can hammer it in. I don't know why you'd ever need to press a 1/2 inch into a 7/8 or to use even a 1/2 inch size with just your fingers, but let's see if we can hammer this in. And there we go. As far as whether or not you need to use epoxy, I don't think that that's really necessary, but you could always use a little bit of epoxy on the outside of the inner nuts before you hammer it in. Now, the good thing about using these is that they're actually a little bit bigger than the knurled thumb nuts, which means that you can put a little bit more torque when you tighten these down. And another good thing about this is that you can use any TPI that you want. If you wanted to go with a 1/4 inch 28, you could use that, whereas these are, as far as I've ever seen, a 1/4 by 20 is all you're gonna find. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of this. It's just a simple project this week, but this is gonna save me a lot of money in the future, and it might save you some money too. Oh, and before I leave, one thing I did forget to talk about, if you need to make a studded knob, you can use any carriage bolt, and you just need a wing nut. We'll put it so that the wings are pointed up like this, and then we'll add a little bit of thread locker. Tighten it up, give it about 24 hours to dry, and you've got a studded knob. Thank you so much for watching.